This kind of tourism is part of the problem, but it's not the biggest problem. It's just the most visible one. The real damage comes from two other kinds of tourism. One that looks harmless at first, and another that actually looks good on paper. That last one is the reason why locals cannot even afford a home in their own village anymore. Let's start with the obvious one, budget tourism. And no, the issue isn't people trying to save money. We all are. The issue is when saving money turns our scenic roads into a public kitchen and toilet. People cooking on footpaths, people sleeping in vans or public spots just to avoid paying for a room. They don't stay in local guest houses, they don't eat at family-run restaurants, but they still use the roads, the water, the beaches, and they definitely leave behind the trash. So locals deal with the mess without seeing much of the benefit. That's not traveling. That's just using a place like a disposable product. And honestly, this is the easy problem. The real damage starts with the second type of tourism, because this kind of tourism makes Goans feel like strangers in their own backyard. It's more subtle, but it's doing real damage to the heart of our villages. I call this isolated tourism. These are people who come to Goa but stay almost entirely within their own circles. They're just here for the sun. I'm talking about places like Morjim. Large groups of Russians socializing only among themselves. Businesses catering almost exclusively to that group. It's not about the nationality. It's about the walls they build. When a village stops being a community, it becomes a colony. Sure, some money comes in through rentals. Many locals rent out their actual homes and move into smaller temporary rooms. So they're earning from the town but no longer really living in it. Over time, these places stop feeling like Goan villages and they start feeling like separate bubbles sitting inside the state but not really a part of it. And that creates resentment. In these cases, tourism doesn't blend, it isolates. And when people enjoy a place without really engaging with the people who live there, it stops feeling ours and starts feeling taken over. And then there's a third type of tourism, the most ironic one and the one that causes the most serious damage, elite tourism. Wealthy outsiders from all over India who don't just visit Goa, they buy into it. Holiday homes, luxury villas, gated properties. We are talking about the ultra high net worth individuals and Bollywood stars who treat Goa like their private playground. On the surface, this looks like the best kind of tourism. A lot of money comes in, property prices rise, development follows. But this is also where the most serious damage also happens. Because over time, rules start bending. Agricultural land gets rezoned. Protected land magically becomes developable. And who is it for? Not for the local guy trying to build a house for his family, but for those with enough money to bend the rules. Villages that were never meant to be urbanized suddenly are. Not for locals, but for people with money, access, and influence. Housing becomes unaffordable for people who grew up here. Rent goes up, land disappears behind gates and private security, and entire hillsides are gutted for holiday homes that sit empty for 10 months of the year, while the people living at the foot of those hills, the locals, they face water shortages. This kind of tourism doesn't just use space. It's changing the face of our villages forever. The resentment for elite tourism has not been silent. It's pricing Goans out of Goa. People have spoken up, but it feels like the system keeps choosing outside money over local life every single time. So if Goans don't want budget tourism, and they don't want isolated tourism, and they don't even want elite tourism, even though it brings in a massive amounts of money, then what do they actually want? Look, when you put all three of these together, you see the pattern. Goans don't hate tourists. Goa has always been a place for visitors. It's in our DNA. But We are reaching a point where the balance is totally off. What most Goans want is actually pretty simple. We want tourism that blends in, not tourism that takes over. We want people who realize that this isn't just a party spot or an investment opportunity. It's a home. Not everything needs to be maximized, not every inch needs to be monetized, because places survive when the people who live there still recognize themselves in them. If tourism can exist alongside local life without overwhelming it, it works. If it can't, resentment is inevitable. And that's why Goans don't reject tourism. They reject this kind of tourism. If you live here, I want to hear from you. What's the biggest change you've seen in your neighborhood? And if you're someone who loves visiting Goa, what do you think good tourism should actually look like? Let's talk about it in the comments.